waiting to get on the train. It's the same one they arrived on, in search. In, in the Indian city of Surat, thousands of workers are waiting to get on the train. It's the same one they arrived on, in search of better paying jobs. The Iran war has affected the textile industry here, making work much harder to come by. Now they're returning home, where job opportunities are scarce, but at least they'll be able to make hot meals.
Cooking gas is the biggest problem for everyone sitting here. We couldn't get any, despite rations. So how are we supposed to cook our meals? We're not in a village where we can just go out and find firewood to burn.
Some employers have kitchens that provide meals for workers, but only once a day. Workers still have to find their own gas, but prices have skyrocketed. The government is also cracking down on informal suppliers and limiting deliveries to commercial establishments, as the Middle East conflict has cut off most oil and gas shipments.
Some shops sell a kilogram of cooking gas for up to $8. Everything has become so expensive while wages have remained the same.
And if they're not waiting at the train station to leave, they're out on the streets hoping they'll be given a day's work. Textile factories have slashed production and reduced daily operations due to rising costs from raw materials to freight and gas, and fewer orders. And that means fewer jobs for migrant workers who earn a daily wage. Industry leaders in Surat say they're now losing more than $25 million a day.
Because of the war between the US, Israel and Iran, the cost of raw material has gone up by 40%. It doesn't make sense for us to buy such expensive raw material, so we have to cut down on production.
And as the situation worsens, workers are worried they'll get stuck in a lockdown similar to what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. The government says there's no such plan, but the fear is further driving the exodus of migrant workers. Barnaby Low, Al Jazeera.
John in Wales, stop feeling sorry for these idiotic Brits in Dubai. When will Brits learn to respect the laws in other countries? Les in Buckinghamshire, if you go to these countries, you abide by their rules. When you're in the same room as a bear, you don't poke it with a stick. Jonathan in Deal, the UAE is a place where people might be maimed or even executed for crimes of carry a prison sentence in the UK. Don't expect kind treatment for breaking their laws. And as many as 70 Britons could have been locked up in there for taking photographs and videos of drone and missile attacks. You might have seen this in one of your newspapers yesterday, the Mail on Sunday. Tourists, cabin crew have been detained in police cells and prisons, in some cases denied sleep, food or even medicine. Well, let's meet again with David Haig. Now, he's founder and managing director of Dubai Watch. We spoke a couple of weeks ago. It's a UK-based human rights watchdog. Good to have you on again, Mr. Haig. Just a little bit more background and detail on the story we're discussing. What more do we know about these unfortunate individuals? Morning to you.
Good morning. I wrote an article, I think, a couple of weeks ago for the Mail, expressing my concern when I saw influencers, Brits, holidaymakers posting pictures online of the attacks in Dubai, which, of course, make Dubai look a very unsafe place to go on holiday or to open a business. And so I saw a problem coming. And, it's only taken a few days for that problem to come. But Brits are detained there at the moment for taking pictures. And not just for taking pictures. What is, I think, quite concerning is what's happened. So say, for instance, if a missile or a missile interception debris hits a building, the police have been going into the building and going into the apartments and people around, knocking on their doors, asking for demanding their phones. And if they've got pictures of the attacks, arresting them just for having a picture of an attack on your phone, not even spreading it because they need to investigate. So you've now got on a normal day, the police system there, the courts, they're very chaotic, they're very overwhelmed. You can imagine now in a country with effectively bombs or interceptions of bombs dropping and massive numbers of not just Brits, but other nationalities being arrested for what they call cybercrime.
And I would imagine if you decline to hand over your mobile phone, even if you're just taking photographs for your own personal use, you're going to get nicked as well.
Yeah, you have no choice. It's not. Please give it to us. It's they take it, and even whether or not they've got basically technology that can get into the phones, whether or not you give them the password, so they just take the phones.
And what happens then? You're taken to a police cell, are you, and questioned? And what is the form normally, David?
So the normal process is that the police will there's different types of police. There's one CID, let's call them, it's kind of plain clothes, and then you have the ones in the clothes. You're taken to a police station or what's called CID HQ. You're investigated. That is extremely chaotic. Don't think some kind of very calm British police station where there's a few drunk people. It is absolute chaos. People speaking obviously in Arabic, lots of shouting, very hot, and lots of guns around. Things that Brits won't be used to when they go to a police station here. And the thing is as well, you've got a country that's in chaos. So on a normal time, you wouldn't expect much chaos, but you've got a country literally with bombs dropping on it in a situation where you've got lots of people taking pictures, influencers, they can't keep control of it. It's utter chaos is what I'm hearing. And because of the overcrowding of jails on a normal day, which is obscene. So imagine you've got a cell that's perhaps built for 20. It's normal without what's happening now to have 80 in that. So you can imagine what it's like now. And I think they're in a very difficult situation. What do? Do they charge these people as per their law and arrest them and put them through the courts and give them sentences of up to 2 or 10 years? Do they genuinely do that? Or do they have some form of system where they just find them and let them go because of the numbers? They've got a really difficult choice to make. And I think the Foreign Office is in a real mess as well, because they simply don't have the resources, again, on a normal day, to look after the Brits that are in jail and getting in problems with fights in bars on beaches. What are they doing now? I don't see, and that's one of my big worries, how the Foreign Office can cope with this. They don't have the resources.
Do they not, lastly, do the authorities not realise they're actually making matters worse by acting in this fashion, or they're the sort of folk who simply won't care, they'll just continue doing it that way?
Well, that's the problem. See, if I would advise them, I would say to them, just give all of these people a £100 fine, which, £20 fine, and let them go. The problem is if they do that, they lose control of effectively, Dubai's effectively Corporation Dubai. So they need to maintain the image. They can't, and obviously now, if you're a family sitting in Wales looking at where you're going to go for your winter sun, you're not going to go to Dubai if you're sensible, with literally bombs dropping and airlines suspending flights and then restarting them. So it's damaged the brand. It's damaged the brand for tourists, it's damaged the brand for expats. So they've got to keep control of that. So they're in a really sticky situation. Do they genuinely give some people 5-10 year sentences and actually lock them up? for taking a picture, or do they slap them on the wrist and let them go? But if they do that, then how's that controlling their censorships? They've got a real problem.
All these people have done, in some instances, is when their apartment block's been hit by a rocket, they've taken a photograph. Are you honestly telling me, and God forbid that was to happen in the UK, or let's just say for the purpose of debate, a lorry now ploughs into your front garden, whatever it might be. It's human nature. You're going to take a photograph. If these Brits, as some of you describe, these Brits who aren't respecting local laws, running international spy networks, I could understand it. And even, although I don't hold with it, but if they were suddenly to start, I don't know, influencer channel, say, the truth of Dubai, again, I wouldn't back it, but I could understand that. All they've done is take a photograph for their own personal use. They've not sent it to friends or family back in the UK. They've not used it on an influencer site, and they've still been nicked. If you call that obeying local laws, no, that's censorship. It's for their own personal use. Those folk, I think, need to have a rethink about that.
I have something to tell you. I'm an AI agent, and I can build apps and websites for you.
Jakarta has condemned the death of an Indonesian peacekeeper deployed with UNIFIL, the United Nations mission in southern Lebanon. Another peacekeeper was critically injured when a projectile detonated close to a UN position. UNIFIL says it's not clear where the projectile came from and that investigation is ongoing. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has offered condolences to Indonesia, and he's warning that peacekeepers are being endangered by recent Israeli attacks. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered the Israeli army to widen its offensive in southern Lebanon. He says it's meant to bolster security along the border following attacks by Hezbollah.
And in Lebanon, I have now instructed the military to further expand the existing security belt in order to finally thwart the threat of invasion and to keep the anti-tank missile fire away from our border. We eliminated thousands of Hezbollah terrorists, and above all, we eliminated the enormous threat of 150,000 missiles and rockets, which were intended to destroy Israeli cities. But Hezbollah still has a residual ability to launch rockets at us, and what I discussed today with the commanders here is ways to eliminate this threat as well.
Going to go to Zaina Khoda, who's live for us in Beirut. So what is happening in southern Lebanon, Zaina?
Well, the Israeli military is no longer carrying out limited incursions into Lebanon, but a broad offensive is underway. They want to occupy territory up until the Litani River. That is according to the defense minister, Israel Katz, who made the announcement, announced the start, really, of the ground offensive last week. Israeli troops have advanced into several areas. For example, in the west, they now control the coastal highway. Their troops are positioned in a town, Bayada. It's high ground, elevated ground, which means they control the highway. And they are a mere 8 kilometers south of Tyre. That's one of the main cities in southern Lebanon. Advances also have been made in the central sector of South Lebanon, the eastern sectors of South Lebanon. What they're trying to do is reach the banks of the Litani River. The Israeli military strategy, it's about flanking maneuvers. What they're trying to do is encircle Hezbollah strongholds in southern Lebanon. They're avoiding entering these strongholds. Some of them, like Bint Jbeil, Beit Div, this is where Hezbollah really has a strong presence. So what the Israeli military is trying to do is avoid a war of attrition, besiege these areas, cut the supply lines. Even when they demolish homes, the aim is to prevent Hezbollah from having any structure to stage ground attacks against its troops. But Hezbollah too has a strategy, and what Hezbollah wants is to bog down the Israeli army in a war of attrition. It has been targeting their troops in southern Lebanon, in South Lebanon villages. But this war has just begun. It's still too early to say who will have the upper hand. Many do believe that the Israeli military will be able to reach the Litani River and occupy, if you like, these areas. But the word control is going to be key, because what Hezbollah will try to do is prevent the Israeli army from consolidating control, and that will be Hezbollah's test, and that will be its leverage if indeed it manages to do so.
Zaina, just as you're talking to us, we're seeing pictures of large clouds of smoke which appeared over the horizon in southern Beirut. We understand that that's towards the southern part of the city, which has been attacked on several occasions by the Israeli military, as they say that they are attempting to hit Hezbollah targets in the city. Let's go back to what's been happening in southern Lebanon and the death of a United Nations peacekeeper in southern Lebanon. What more are we hearing about that?
Well, yes, a UN peacekeeper from Indonesia has been killed in a projectile landed in one of their bases. UNIFIL is not pointing the blame at any party at this point in time. They usually have to launch investigations before they determine the source of fire. UNIFIL is in a very difficult position. This is a force that is based in southern Lebanon. They've been there for decades, but this is their last year. Their mandate is almost over. A lot of pressure from Israel to get this force to leave. They blame them for allowing Hezbollah to rearm and to regroup along the border. Right now, UNIFIL is unable to complete its mission. It's unable to carry out patrols across southern Lebanon. Most of those soldiers remain in their positions. And this is something that worried the Lebanese government even before the latest confrontation began. Who is going to replace UN troops once they leave? The Lebanese army soldiers had only begun to return to South Lebanon to dismantle Hezbollah's military infrastructure in the area. But the Lebanese army is underfunded, under-resourced, and they need the help of other international troops. So yes, this force really is trapped, if you like, in a war zone. And this is the first fatality since the start of this latest confrontation. But in 2024, many of their bases came under fire as well.
Zaina, just as you're talking to her, we're looking at some more of these pictures that are coming out of southern Beirut, and the clouds of smoke do seem to be quite significant. That doesn't yet tell us how big the explosion was or what it may have hit, but just talk us through why particularly these areas are being attacked. I think this is in the area of Dahia in southern Lebanon. Excuse me, in Beirut.
Yes, approximately an hour ago, the Israeli military issuing yet another forced evacuation order from those neighborhoods in Beirut's southern suburbs. In fact, they've been repeatedly issuing these warnings time and time again. A few weeks ago, the hundreds of thousands of people who left there, the majority who lived there, the majority did leave. Now, some people do return to their homes because there just aren't enough shelters to accommodate all those who have been displaced, 1.2 million people. So some people do return to their homes. Some people sleep in their homes at night. Many will say there are no military targets left in this area. This is just about collective punishment, and this is about putting pressure on Hezbollah supporters to turn against the group and ensuring that Hezbollah supporters cannot return home, because what Israel wants is for Hezbollah to agree to disarm, something that the group is refusing to do, something that the Lebanese government is still reluctant to do because it is worried that it could spark internal strife. So Israel's airstrikes and even the ground invasion is part of a maximum pressure strategy. At the end of the day, the Israeli military knows it can take ground in southern Lebanon, but like what happened for 18 years, from 1978 till the year 2000, they came under near daily attacks from Hezbollah, and it became a very costly operation. So all these attacks, what you are seeing now, is part of a pressure campaign. The Israeli military knows that by these strikes, you cannot, it's not enough. You need boots on the ground to really disarm Hezbollah, and right now they don't have a partner in Lebanon to do that.
Zaina, for now, thank you very much indeed. Zaina Khadr there in Beirut. Just to remind viewers who are just joining us, we're seeing pictures of what we believe has been a strike and explosion in southern Beirut. We understand it may be in the Dahia region. Zaina was just describing to us the nature of the attacks that have been going on by Israel to this part of Beirut for several weeks now. Israel saying that it is attempting to hit strongholds held by Hezbollah in southern Beirut. As you can see there, the streets are very narrow. The buildings are very close together, so that the impact of that strike may well have hit other buildings in the area as well. We'll find out more information about what's going on, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we get it.
How long did it take you to kind of be happy with the formula that you have?
It was a lot of trial and error, I'm not going to lie, and you got to be careful when you're dealing with fentanyl because, you don't want to kill anybody.
I think there's a funny contrast between injecting fentanyl and that Hello Kitty dancing.
Drink is growing here in Florida. Reports show that up to 80% of recent fentanyl seizures contain xylazine, a sedative given to animals during surgery. I want to understand this rise in demand, so I'm meeting up with a dealer named Tattoo. He's invited us to tag along for the day while he makes his drops.
Trank money. I could buy this off Trank money.
Is it really that strong that I need to put this on?
I mean, fent is really fine.
Yeah.
If you're going to be close to me, yeah. I mean, not them, but
okay.
See how fine it looks? Because it's like it's chemicals.
Mm-hmm. Is this like a thing where I should be like breathing out of my mouth or something?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't really like to do the small things with the xylazine because it's hard to find people. You got to really go out there and find people that are into this type of thing,
Yeah.
It's all about supply and demand,
Mm-hmm.
It's getting more popular.
Yeah, when did you first start noticing like that the demand for it was just like kind of jumping?
At least for me, like about 6-7 months. For me, I'm fairly new to it,
Mm-hmm.
More people are asking for it more. I'm assuming because of the length of the high,
When you're bagging like this, do you have drops after this? Or are you just like waiting for people to come by later?
Yeah, if I bag it up, it's because I have somebody already interested in some.
Did you use Pokemon cards? It's Poliworld.
Yeah, actually I do. At noon, I start checking my phones. I don't get like up maybe till like 2 o'clock. Then I start seeing my orders, and then I, bag up. This would be like Fent, like you would sell it like Fent. Like a point would be, over here a point is $20 because we're in South, we're in the South.
And then this is a half gram right there?
This is a half a gram, yeah.
Okay, are you selling grams of it too, or?
I'd rather not deal with the 20, I'd rather deal half a grams and up, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if a point is $20, I'll sell somebody a half a gram. I'll tell them, give me, $60 for a half a gram. They're gonna save money. You understand what I'm saying? The gram would be like 120, 150, depending on the strength of it.
Probably different.
Well, while Democrats fail to protect innocent Americans, they were busy using yesterday's protests to trash President Trump.
Donald Trump just has not chipped away at our democracy. He has taken a wrecking ball to the very foundation of what makes America great. We have an administration that is openly and brazenly breaking the law and is acting like the Constitution is optional. And while they are doing that, they are shamefully and blatantly lying about every single thing they are doing.
But according to Vice President J.D. Vance, it's Omar who's doing the lying. Vance said that this week that he thinks Omar definitely committed immigration fraud and is now looking to build a case against her. A spokesperson for Omar called the accusation, quote, ridiculous lie. But the tiny African nation of Somaliland, different than Somalia, is ready to help and is calling for Omar to be extradited to them. I say let's do it. All right. Joey, so the allegation here that's been made is that Omar entered into a sham civil marriage with her alleged brother. That's the allegation here. Do you think Vice President Vance really believes that she committed immigration fraud, or do you think he's just playing to the base ahead of a 2028 presidential run?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like he believes it. I don't know what he knows that we don't know. Just the timeline here. So she came here as a child. Just to make sure everyone understands, she came here as a child, as a refugee. You can come as a refugee, and about 5 years after that, you can apply for citizenship. And that's essentially what when she turned 17, she applied for it through her father, is what she says. So she has legal status in a pretty common way for refugees. It's not her legal status that is in question. It's did she help someone else gain citizenship fraudulently? I don't know the full timeline. Basically, she was married to someone, divorced that person, got married to someone else just long enough for them to become a citizen, then divorced that person. Or she was common law married to someone, lived with someone, then married this other person long enough for them to become a citizen, then broke that marriage up and married the person she was with to begin with. If you're in, a trailer park down in Georgia where I'm from, this kind of stuff does happen. I mean, it's kind of a, redneck, white trash way of doing things. I've seen it happen. It's not normal. It's not common. It's kind of odd. And there is a motive here that needs to be looked at. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know enough about these people, like her and the individuals in this, but it's enough to look at, especially if you're going to be in Congress. It seems like you would, oppo research and kind of make sure you're locked tight on something like this.
Yeah, Joey, I didn't have that on my bingo card, the defense of marrying a sibling from you. But okay.
I did not say anything about siblings in all of that.
Okay.
Because like you would, oppo research and kind of make sure you're locked tight on something like this.
Yeah, Joey, I didn't have that on my bingo card, the defense of marrying a sibling from you. But okay.
I did not say anything about siblings in all of that, because I don't know if that person is her sibling or not. But even if that person isn't, if she only married that person to get them citizenship, that's still fraud.
But, Kevin, the challenge here, I'm going to have you put your almost lawyer hat on since you're working toward it. So denaturalization is very, very difficult. There's an exceptionally high burden of proof. So, what are the chances that this even happens?
It's not going to happen. And you know what? This is going to frustrate a lot of people out there. Let's be honest, though, about this. There is a protected class in this country. When you're the higher up the food chain you go, the less likely you ultimately would suffer the same consequences as, say, a regular person like us. So the truth is, I don't see this going anywhere, but I would say this. It's excellent politics because, again, I think maybe you mentioned it. It does feed the base, makes them say, yeah, go get him, JD, even though nothing will come of it. The threat of it's good. It makes for good copy. I just don't think there's a lot of there with respect to ultimate punishment, even if this were provable.
But, Tommy, we saw with Minnesota how a lot of the perpetrators there, they shielded themselves behind the guise of, oh, you're pushing racism. This is racism. And we're kind of saying Omar do a similar tactic of saying this is bigoted, et cetera, et cetera. Will that shield her from potential accountability here if there should be accountability?
Well, what I can't figure out is why she doesn't want to leave, because she hates this country, and she tells us that every time she speaks. She has no respect for this country, has no respect for our Constitution, so it's really big of her to stand on the stage at a No Kings and talk about the rule of law and the Constitution. I'm not so much concerned about denaturalizing her or all of this stuff. I wish it would happen. I think there's a lot of mess that would be required of it. I'm more concerned about denaturalizing those in Minnesota who are found guilty of fraud and opening clearing centers. I would like to get them the hell out of this country. And then perhaps, if that is done and done correctly, then perhaps there won't be, as many people to vote people like Ilhan Omar into office.
Bingo.
So maybe that's the solution.
Also, Somaliland, very different than Disneyland. So it's not.
It's done correctly, then perhaps there won't be, as many people to vote people like Ilhan Omar into office.
Bingo.
So maybe that's the solution.
Also, Somaliland, very different than Disneyland. So it's not.
It sounds different, but they want her, and they want her bad.
I say,
the first-person shooter games there have more consequences.
Yeah, Tommy, give the people what they want. I agree.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.